Good morning and welcome to Just In. I'm your host, Adriana Lamar, here with Sammy Wells and Tommy Scott, coming to you live on this beautiful Saturday morning. We got a great show for you today, but before we get into it, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and we will catch you in just a moment. All right, first topic of the day. The NFL has been firing coaches left and right. It is a coach firing pandemic, if you will. I'm going to run through this list. Tommy and Sam, I want you to tell me fair or foul and just give me a little, brief why. So let's start with Joe Judge out of the Giants. Tommy, fair or foul?
Fair. Just there's been there's some injury issues whatnot that he's been dealing with, but at this point when you look at the team and the decision making, it's like he's lost the locker room. So whether he's done a good job or not is irrelevant. Once you lose the locker room, time to pack it up and move your fort somewhere else.
Sam?
No, I would say I don't care.
You're almost giddy.
They could get another horrible coach and be horrible for another season. Hey, my hats to them. But I would say that it's fair because, as Tommy said, they were losing the locker room. He was losing the locker room, and when you come out with a play like they try to do a quarterback sneak in that kind of formation, you kind of just like kind of giving up on the season, even though it is the last game of the last game of the season. You think you would come out and just be like give your fans something to cheer about, but you got them scratching their head just like, what are they doing?
All right. Brian Flores, Dolphins. Tommy.
Mm, this one's hard. I mean, I will ultimately, I guess, say foul. And the reason being is, the team had definitely turned that corner and was starting to improve. And this reeks of one of the we're going to choose player over coach. And now it's not like you're choosing a solidified player with a long road ahead. It could be there, very well could be, but not there yet. And when you have a coach that's kind of changed the culture and kind of moving things in the right direction to make that decision, it's a tough one to be in. I just don't think that that's the right one. I think they're doing better off saying, okay, you're going to stay, and you two are you're going to hold hands until you get along. But I'm still calling foul though. I don't think this was the way to go about this, especially when your team starts, you turn the corner, having success. Iron sharpens iron. So this is a matter of, it's like, head coach, quarterback don't have to get along. They just need to understand and respect each other. And it seems like, well, okay, that was occurring. So keep that occurring and take the success and learn from it. But instead, now you're back in the start over mode, and that can be good, that can be bad.
Sam, what do you think?
I'll say foul, and I will say that owners that need to understand that they don't need to be the coach too. You hired a coach to do a job. Okay. The coach is going to do their job. So whatever they're recommending, let them be the coach. Don't be the owner and the coach too. That's the reason why you hired a coach. Okay. If you want to be out there, just, hey, say to your organization, I'm going to be the owner, I'm going to be the coach, and I'm going to do all the plays and everything else. If you don't want to do the coaching, stay your butt up in the owner's box and watch. Definitely fail. I mean, any coach that goes undefeated against Bill Belichick is a good coach, and he had things turning around. They went on a 7-win streak, and you have to admire that what they did. And so, definitely a foul.
Okay, Sam, Mike Zimmer, Vikings.
Uh, I say it was foul. I mean, I would say foul. Mike Zimmer is a great coach. I think that you at least need to give him one more season to get the Vikings back to, because if you look at most of the Vikings games, they were in most of the games. They only lost by from like 3 points to 10 points. So I think that was foul.
And what about you, Tommy?
I'm gonna go. I think it was fair. I think he lost. It's another one of those where he was losing the locker room. I think Zimmer is a great coach, but is an emotionally ignorant coach in the sense that he's still coaching in his mind to what he saw, 20, 30, 40 years ago, uh, and does not understand, just didn't take the time to really understand his players, and he's kind of coaches with this expectation of my players need to understand me, and that's not going to fly for very long, because even stone faced, Belichick, um, he's got a persona about him where he's going to do what he needs to do to understand his players, and that's the aspect that Zimmer just does not. He couldn't bring it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when you look at those small losses where it's 3 points, 1 point, it's those close games. You kind of look in there and you look at the mental tomfoolery going on in those moments. And granted, like with the quarterback thing, underneath the wrong center and all that, like granted, we know how scatterbrained is in the field with Cousins, but it's still one of those things though that's like all of that rolls back into the muscle memory of what you're getting when you're in practice, and when you're making that kind of a mental mistake, that's one of those where it's like, well, when you guys practice that, are you actually focused on what you're doing, or are you just focused on how much you're getting yelled at, how much you're not getting yelled at? That's that aspect of it. So I think he's moved the ball where it needed to go, but he's one of those guys that needs really somebody between him and the players, so that the knowledge can go, but the emotional stuff can get kept fair.
All right, Sam, Matt Nagy, Bears.
Definitely fair. I didn't see the Chicago Bears going anywhere in this season because honestly, Matt Nagy was, when he first came onto the Chicago Bears, he had a great defense. They had Trubisky was playing good, and then you know it just his get either the players got tired of him and didn't want to play for him anymore. But this was a definitely a fair fight because Chicago Bears were not going anywhere, and still won't forgive him for passing up on drafting Mitch Trubisky and passing on where you could have had Deshaun Watson. So, yeah.
Tommy?
Yeah, I mean about the same. It's just this year was just kind of one of those like, the watching the Bears. A lot of times they just look confused. It's like we don't have an identity. We don't know exactly what it is that we're trying to do. And that's just one of those like, can't you see this is the last act of a desperate man? And it was, and so it's time for them to move on. Still, and in reality, let's be fair. This is fair to Nagy as well. I mean, it's time for him to move on. It's like, dude, just let somebody put him out of his misery. Let him go. Because we've seen coaches, you have a rough time somewhere, they get booted out, they go somewhere else, and they're able to have success there. And this is one of those like definitely not the end of the road for him. It's time to call this chapter done.
All right, and then Tommy, Vic Fangio, Broncos.
Fair. but in the sense of it's time for them to make quite a bit of change out there because they've got some definite, struggles. They've got a lot of things that they need to address and get cleaned up. Vic Fangio is still a good coach. The 49ers organization was foolish to have, when they cut Harbaugh loose and didn't want to, yield to the Fangio's demands. That was just stupidity at its best, and they paid the price for it. In this case, it's like Fangio is going to land somewhere. He does know what he's doing, and but it's one of those situations where it's fair because everything that from the team to the coaches to the players, they need to revamp themselves.
Overhaul. What about you, Sam?
I'm going to say foul only because that now the Denver Broncos is going after my defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. And I want my defensive coordinator to stay where he's at in Dallas, where he has made my defense.
Foul. It doesn't work with my plans for my
Exactly.
Cowboys.
It does not work with my plan. It's foul. But no, I would say this.
But is Dan Quinn going to want to go play in the snow?
I would say this. I would say it's foul because that the defense for Broncos were great. The defense was great. It's just that their offense was not able to. Were not that great, and you can't really depend on Teddy Bridgewater to make your offense like that. I guess Teddy Bridgewater is the only way that he can be able to play is if he play against my Dallas Cowboys, because he always has a good game against my Dallas Cowboys. I don't understand. I do not understand this, but hey, I think that if they gave him one more shot, I think he could have got that offense back to a good place, and the defense and the offense would have been at least one more year. At least one more year.
Okay, so last one. This was an interesting one. David Culley from the Texans. So he's had less than a season, basically. What do you guys think about this one? Let's go with you, Sam.
I will say this. Now, because this is it's a very challenging subject for this particular coach and this organization. We have all know that the Houston Texans their organizations has been controversial. With their owner saying that the inmates need to stay in their place, referring to football players, and then also the general manager. Now, I'm going to quote what the general manager said as far as the reason that he fired David Culley. He said, anytime you're in a position of leadership, you're put in a position that are difficult and it's never personal. Okay, so tell me what was difficult for you to go to your quarterback and ask him for his recommendation as far as for the season? Ask him why. And now in March of 2020, you decide to trade his best receiver to the Arizona Cardinals. What is difficult going communicating? What's the problem with having a communication with your quarterback, especially since he's on the field and he's trying to do what he needs to do for the team to win? He also said, and why is it that your quarterback is at odds with the organization? You have a star player here. You have a star player. You get rid of his weapon and you want to know the reason why he's upset?
So you think it is foul basically because the organization is making decisions that are basically putting the entire team in upheaval, and David Culley is the collateral damage?
Correct. He also said on the firing, he said there were some things that we did as a team that were okay. There were some things that needed to be better. Okay, please, Nick, What did you do better for this coach? What resources did you do? Okay, because you waived Philip Lindsay that you got from the Denver Broncos. You sent him to he went to Miami. You traded Mark Ingram, and he went to the Saints. What did you do? What players did you give him that that the players we could have did other things needed to be better? What did you do to make it better at all for this coach? Deshaun Watson said that he wanted a black coach. So okay, you decided to get a black coach that been an assistant for a very long time, did not have any head coaching experience. Granted that you did give him a chance. You did give him a chance, but you gave him no resources. You gave him this roster where you just said, "Hey, here, this is the roster that you have. Work with this." And then after the season, you're going to say to him, there are some things we did okay, and there's some things that we did need to be better. How can he be better if you're not giving him the resources? This definitely was a foul. Now, saying all the facts that I just brought up and everything else, has nothing to do with race or anything else. But you didn't even give this man any kind of resources to go by. Definitely a foul.
Tommy, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree. This one is like, this is when you look at the whole picture, right? When you start looking at the forest rather than the trees, um, this is Sam said, this is, let's try and make the quarterback happy because this is our star player, and I know it. Everybody knows it. He said he wants a black coach, so we'll hire a black coach. Here's one. This one shouldn't cost us a whole lot of money. Everything goes on. Your star player is not available and likely isn't coming back to the team in any way, shape, or form. So, well, what do we need the black coach for anymore? So we can ditch him and move on. I'm going to throw out generic statements. There are things we did well and things we need to improve on.
Don't
Okay,
think
so
every
last
team
night
could have said that.
I drove from Elk Grove, California to Medford, Oregon. And on that drive, there were things that I did well, and there were things that I could improve on, right? It's I brushed my teeth this morning. There were things that I did well. There were things I could improve on. So it's a generic statement that's basically, there's three ways you can cut this up, right? Obviously, the race thing's there, and it's there for a reason. It's always going to be there for a reason, especially when you have that type of organization. The other aspect of it is well, I'm interested to see like who they think they're going to pursue, right? Is this a matter of like, well, I've always had this relationship with, I'm making this part up. I've always had this relationship with Vic Fangio or Tim Nagy, or Nagy. It's like you're in this. Maybe that's what he wants. They're available, and he wants to pursue them. He wants to bring them in, and that was the ultimate goal. Maybe there was one of those where it's like, hey, we kind of have that going on. Or like I said, this was an appeasement of Watson that doesn't look like it's going to work out, so we're just going to move on from everything. But for a team that was basically like, yeah, you sold or traded your talent, or your talent was tied up with other things, which are not even like, they are, what do you call it, personal, civil matters. They're lawsuits. They're not even, there's no criminal stuff. This is all lawsuit stuff. So in reality, it's like, let it be. But you get all that, and yet you still manage to be the reason. Your team managed to be the reason why teams actually had a shot at being the number one team in the AFC. Because if you guys don't beat the Titans twice, everybody else can just pack up their tents and go home. Right? It's like without those, you take those two losses away from the Titans, there's not even, everybody else just don't even bother trying to do that. So your team has the potential. You're showing that your team, your coach has the locker room by how they come together and how they play. but you're also showing, you look at the rest of the season, and you look at everything. They had the 4 wins, but when you look at the losses, it's like, yeah, there's some things that are in there where, hey, welcome to the NFL. You really don't have the talent to compete week in and week out. You're going to need that super greater than the sum of our parts effort to win anything, because you just don't have the pieces and parts in place to do it. You look at you rewind it, take it to Singletary's era with the Niners, right? Niners are struggling. They got in there. Singletary had some success towards the end of the year, and then had a couple years in there and never really had a full accoutrement of talent around him, but had things like the offensive line in place, had the defense in place to where there's all these little parts that were strong enough to keep them in that, 6, 7, 8 win seasons. And the Texans don't even have that. So this idea of like, well, you're going to be here for basically less than a year, and well, we need to move on. It's like, no, this has nothing to do with the coach. Your coach did a good job for what you gave him, what he had to work with. You just want to go somewhere else. So just be, I love it. And this is the problem I have with these organizations. I actually don't have a problem if you're going to maintain the attitude of the inmates don't run the prison. Fine, draw your hard line in the sand, do your thing, but be your hard line in the sand. Don't shrivel and shy away from it when it comes down to this, where the reality is we just want to go do something else. Coach did fine. It's nothing to do with him. Really, we probably could have been, 9-8, and we still would have gone this way. We just wanted to go a different direction. The coach did good with the fact that we didn't give him any resources to do anything. We're just interested in moving in a different direction. Make it about you. Stop putting it on other people. It's like, I love this. We can be hard. We can draw the hard line in the sand and say the mean things, and it's not personal. But unless it comes to us, we can't actually pony up to the fact that we just want to go do something different. It's got to be somebody else's fault for it. So we're going to throw out vague statements. So, but I kind of look at the Texans as one of those organizations that's like, what was that, was it the color purple with Whoopi? It's like, until you come right and do, or until you come back and do right by me, they're going to be forever cursed, because it's just, they've like, since they got, how you get JJ Watt to want to leave? Something wrong with you. Something wrong with you.
And also, let me remind people that the Texans had last year. They had Deshaun Watson. They had Watts, and they had Watts, and they won 4 games with 2-star players. They had 2-star players and won 4 games. This man had no players and won 4 games. Amount of games with no players at all. And then his star quarterback got injured in the first 2 weeks, and then he had to put in a rookie. So most of his season was based off a rookie. And you guys are going to fire him.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. I want to come back and definitely talk about tomorrow's big game for all of us, which is Dallas versus the 49ers. So if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button, and we will catch you in just a few moments.
That they're playing this weekend?